Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Venture Catalyst MENA. My name is Hamid Dakhil. For you who doesn't know me, I'm a co-founder of StarZen and partner of CEO Club, KSA chapter, and also founder of a number of projects. This is my second session participating with Venture Catalyst, and I'm very excited about it. We are very excited today to have Dr. Apoorva with us. Whoever who is attending for the first time, I would like to introduce you to the entire knowledge series. This knowledge series is the brainchild of Dr. Ahmed Al-Zubaydi from GCC and Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma, who's joining us today, and who's co-founder and president of Venture Catalyst. Now, Dr. Ahmed and his friends are doing phenomenal work to educate investors and friends from the Middle East about startups investments. Each session covers important topics about startup investment. During the last session, our panelists, Mr. Ashrin Grover and Mr. Harsh Shah, talked about their journey in building successful startups. Now, today we are hosting this fifth session, which will be taken up by an industry leader, Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma. So, Dr. Apoorva, I welcome you and all of our guests for today's session.
Thank you.
Let me give a quick introduction about Dr. Apoorva. Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma. He is a co-founder and president of Venture Catalyst. Under his leadership, Venture Catalyst have become the world's seventh most active incubator and early stage investor. He is the first PhD in incubation from India, acclaimed globally. He holds an MBA BTech from reputed institutions and diploma in mentoring studies from UC Berkeley. Dr. Sharma has been mentoring and investing in startups since 2002. He has established more than 12 incubators in India. He has also mentored and invested in more than 100 startups, and he has an eye for identifying unicorns at a very early stage. In 2012, he invested in OYO Rooms as the first investor. Today, OYO Room has become one of the most valued startups globally with a valuation of 10 billion US dollars. His other successful portfolio includes BharatPe, valued at 500 million US dollars today, Beardo, acquired by Marico Limited, Innovate, acquired by OYO Rooms, Fynd, acquired by Reliance Industries, and 30 plus more multi-bagger successful exits. Now, in 2017, 18, and 19, Dr. Apoorva Sharma was ranked among the top 10 most active angel investors in India by Economic Times. For his contribution to the startup ecosystem in India, he has been awarded by the President of India and two biggest industries of India, Mr. Narayan Murthy and Mr. Ratan Tata. Earlier this year, Dr. Apoorva Sharma launched his first Accelerator Fund called 9 Unicorns. He is on the hunt for finding the next unicorn around the world. So we hope to really learn from his experience and find few unicorns ourselves. Welcome again, Dr. Apoorva, to today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Amiji.
If you would allow me to start with this question, let's try to identify to some of the attendees who don't know about the decacorn, unicorn, semicorn. So basically, what is a decacorn, unicorn, and a semicorn, and how is the unicorn landscape around the world? And are they impacting the economy and transferring the world?
Very good question. I think the starting question, because a lot of people have hearing about semi-unicorn, unicorns, and so unicorn is a startup which has become a $1 billion startup in terms of valuation. Like today, OYO is a $10 billion value company. So likewise, there are about And semi-unicorn or sunicorn companies these are companies which are going soon to become unicorn. So these are mostly companies which are above $100 million valuation. And decacorn are the companies which are above $10 billion companies, right? So these are, this is a definition. As far as the impact of these startups, which are semi-unicorn or unicorn, it's a very, very global impact actually. It all started from Silicon Valley way back in 1960. Today you have out of top 10, top 10 companies in NASDAQ, you'll find 6, 7 startups. This number keeps changing. Sometimes it's 6, sometimes 7, but there are 7 startups today. And similarly, in other parts of the world also, you will find there are about 479 unicorns across the globe. And this is in multiple sectors. And we also realized that over time, last 4 or 5 years, we realized, in China, there are about 200 unicorns, US 200 unicorns, but there are smaller economies like Thailand, they also have 6 unicorns. Malaysia, Indonesia, they have around 6, 8 unicorns. There are smaller countries like Portugal, which are trying to create the startup ecosystem by organizing the Web Summit there. So there is a lot of, mobilization has happened to become the startup economies in the world. Even in India, we are setting something like Greater Bay Area in Mumbai. So, there are a lot of efforts going to, develop the startup economies across the globe. And the impact of them, go to the next slide, Rajesh. So you can see the impact of them, it's around 8.2 million jobs which are created by the unicorns. And there are about 4,000 plus semi-unicorn also, right? And around $5.34 trillion contribution to the global economy. And these unicorns and semi-unicorn companies are actually transforming the world. They are bringing a new life to the economies. A lot of economies which are, we were suffering, these unicorns and unicorn are bringing a new life to those economies. So that is the impact of these startups. And of course, look at India. I gave you one example that gives you a fair idea how, OYO has created $45,000 plus, jobs in India. Around 1.2 million rooms, are booked, there in their inventories. I mean, 750,000 rooms are booked every day. That was pre-COVID scenario, right? Yeah. And then, more than 90,000 micro entrepreneurs. So this is just one company. And there are 40 such unicorns in India, right? And that is the impact of these unicorns. And there are some 300 plus semi-unicorn. So the way these startups are contributing to these economies is actually unparalleled and amazing and awesome, I'd say.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you're a doctorate in incubation, and you have been in incubating and investing in startups for the last 20 years, I believe. You have simplified investing for nearly 5,000 plus investors around the world. So basically, what are the myths about startup investing?
Actually, 2000 between, I'm also a learner, learned over a period of time what are the myths in this ecosystem. I'm a friend to startup between $0 to $50 million. So while developing these startup between, from the idea stage to $50 million, I learned it. And there are some learnings which I would like to share with you. Rajesh, can you open the slide? So, there are a lot of people in the world, think that startup is only technology startup. Startup is only technology enabled startup. I showed you a previous slide where you can see, more than, there are a lot of startups in the world which are into supply chain, FMCG. Out of 479 unicorns, you'll find at least 50, 60 of them in, 82 FMCG unicorns, electric vehicle, around 37 unicorn in the world, supply chain, 29 unicorn in the world. So world is, beyond this, just technology. It's just not technology or technology enabled. So that is one thing. Second thing, which I realized that, the valuation, a lot of people think in the idea stage, the valuation is, something, which is something which, is, and the quantum, this is something which a lot of people think in the ideal stage, there's no limit. A lot of good startups, sometimes they raise, $50,000, sometimes they raise $500,000, in different economies, the different level of the investments is happening. Even there are some companies who are raising $20 million at the idea stage, so there is no, quantum fixed for them. and the investment companies or the incubation companies who understand that, they get the best of the startup, right? So you have to be flexible here. Going to the a lot of startups, they think they have to, after raising the seed on early stage, they have to raise the next round from the VCs around their country. I think that's the biggest mistake they do. We educated our startup to go out of the world. There are thousands of the VC in China itself, more than 20,000 VC. US also there are 20,000 VC. Go out in the world, look at the best VC who can fund you for the next round. And that should be also add a lot of value to you. Like OYO got money from Lightfeed US, right? They are the one who actually transformed their life, after us. So, this is something which you guys have to go out. So the startups, we broke this myth for, and so you look at the number of international funds who have invested in our portfolio now. Go to the next slide. So, and then there are other myths like, people are, thinking that maybe the mortality is also 80% in early stage. A lot of investment company project 80% mortality. But if you have the right model, if you have the right mentorship model, you can control the mortality. We have done, our mortality is less than 5%. So, there are a lot of myths which, if you have the right set of investing model, right set of incubation approach, you can prove to the world that, you can definitely, it's not people think it's a very risky business. This is actually not. If you have the right mentorship model, you can control the mortality. And you can also control the X, by providing them the right set of enablement. Like today we have about 3X. Our returns are more than 35 exits have happened. So you can definitely control by the right set of offering to the startup. That's important.
Excellent. Okay, but Dr. Apoorva, now you've always talked about startups beyond technology. So share with us, give us some examples of non-tech companies leading various categories, and I've seen some in your presentation.
Yeah, so I always believe, when 2016 I was starting Venture Catalyst, that was time when it was largely tech and tech enablement. And in India was just Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore metro cities, right? We took it to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and we realized there, a lot of FMCG companies are coming. Like I showed you, there are about 60 plus unicorns which are into FMCG. There are a lot of unicorns into supply chain. So then, this myth we broke. And then I give you an example. My recent success is Beardo, which is a company acquired by Marico. In India, the maximum acquisition happened in the FMCG area, but there were not many people who were investing in that. So we opened that, and recently we invested at $500,000 in that company, and we invested at maybe around, I think, $3 or $4 million, and we exited, at 10x. So the company is actually created a lot of value. It's around, Beardo is 5.33x recently. So and this just happened in 3 years, but this was one of the leading market player. Even today, they are the leaders in the market in the men's grooming. So you have to experiment. You have to go to the multiple sectors. Don't just limit yourself to just technology. Go to the FMCG, go to supply chain logistics. There are potential startups everywhere. And look at the best startup, best founders. That's where you'll have to invest.
What are the various disruptions that you are seeing around the world? What are unicorns replacing the traditional businesses?
Yeah, that's something happening. If you see in India, frankly, startups are raising more capital than the stock market companies. Last 2 years data. In NASDAQ, top 10 companies, 7 are the startups, right? So they are replacing the traditional businesses, and that is what is happening across the globe, right? So, this is some examples, in your own economy, Kareem is there, which has come, and, Paytm in India, which is, they come with Bang, and they come with, they change the way how the payment is done in India, right? So they are kind of replacing old businesses, and they are setting new practices, which are more capital efficient, which are more standardized and predictable. The offerings are very much predictable here. You can see that from this to this place, the expense will be this much, and you are saving cost. So these companies are bringing new life to the economy by giving better solutions, disrupting the way how the old businesses were done. Even in India, Ola has done that. They've changed the way how like the way Kareem has done in US, in your economy. So, Souk I've heard about Souk also in MENA region about that. So they are changing the way how the business was traditionally done. In India, you will find this in every sector now, because, we have around 1 lakh startup now, in India. And, we are coming, startups with all segments. They are touching almost every segment. I've invested at least in 12 segments by now, 12 sectors.
Wow. Wow. OYO Room is a decacorn. It is valued over 10 billion US dollars. And so it is 10 times bigger than a unicorn. And you've been a mentor to OYO. How did you spot the founder, and what age? And what made you invest with him?
So this question actually is he even asked me once. So, when I met, the founder, he was just not even 18, he was just 17 at that age. And my relationship with him is more as a mentor, because yes, we invested in him. But at that tender age, we looked at the guy, the 2-3 things which we looked at, that he's a very quick decision maker. And same day I gave offers to 5 startups, but he was the first one to come back to us to accept the offer with a little bit of improvisation. Second, we also realized that this guy is, we did a reference check before offering these startups, that he was very well connected in the economy. He almost went to a lot of investors for mentorship, for guidance. So he was a very good guy who had the people management capability. And then we also realized that, even at this age, he has a fair understanding about all the investment terms, what is written in the term sheets, and he was able to negotiate it very, very well with us. So at that age, if he had that much, so we could sense that, he's an unstoppable guy. So that's why we thought of backing this, guy, because we could have invested a very small amount in this company. Yes, we would have raised billions of dollars by now. But at that stage, we thought, let's help this guy, to achieve his dreams. And yes, he was a dreamer. He has made it now, and he has proved to the world that he can create a company which is going to be one of the biggest startup in the world. So he's definitely, it was growing at 320. I mean, when I spoke to him, he told me that maybe the company was last growing at pre-COVID at more than 300% rate. So from there to seed stage to this place, I'll say spotting is something which not an easy job. You have to meet a lot of startups to find the right set of startups, because out of every 4,000 startups in China, there is one unicorn. Out of every 2,000 startups in India, there is one unicorn today. So you have to meet that many startups in a year. Today we meet around 10,000 startups every year to find some unicorn, right? So it is important to meet as many startups as possible. And at that age, of course, we supported him, and I can see Star gone, in just less than, I'll say, we did it in 2012, and now we just 8 years, and he's proved to become the second biggest, second richest billionaire, second youngest billionaire in the world. So I think great journey with him.
Well, since we are in the same topic, let me ask you this. What are then the typical traits of a unicorn founder? How are they different from other startup founders? So please, talk to us about the journey onward.
So yes, I can talk about. So they are very quick decision makers. That's one thing which I have noticed. Even Beardo guys, came talk to me in the night, and in the morning they were sitting in my office signing the term sheet. We gave an offer to OYO guy. Within few hours he was back to sign the term sheet. So they are very quick decision maker, and they are able to assess, where is the opportunity. If they are able to make quick decisions, and I know that these co-founders, it is their capability which make these startup a $1 billion startup. It is the founders' capability which makes these startup, and they are very good in raising the capital. Also, we have also realized extremely good people in people management, raising capital, and they're also very good thinkers. Always I've seen that they're internally highly passionate people for their concept. They don't look at any other thing than what, normally, beyond their business. For them, that is something, everything for their business, right? They think, breathe every time that their business is that. And this I have observed from very closely, not with at least 20, 30 startups, which have grown in last, and which are, doing very well in India. So, this is something, I can say beyond what, there may be 20 other things in there, them, but yeah, these are things which I have observed personally, in these founders.
How do you see startup investing as an asset class growing?
So I think like I said, startups are replacing the traditional businesses across the globe. So the startup investments also is becoming a prominent asset class across the globe now. Earlier, like even in India, this was one of the asset classes, but today I told you, startups are raising more capital than, the stock market companies in India. And that is something which is amazing. So the other asset class, stock market, real estate, gold, they are traditional assets class, but you don't see an enjoyment when you are investing in startups. When they are successful, you also live with their success. You also enjoy their success, and then you also feel you have a satisfaction that you have created a startup which is giving jobs to so many people. Like I was in Bangalore, one of the company which is into car cleaning. There are more than 30,000 people, which were directly or indirectly engaged, and I could see the kind of respect in their eyes for the investors who have invested in them. So that kind of thing you don't see in yes, you give a lot of your friends and family people come to borrow money from you if you're a rich man. But when you are helping a startup founder who you do not know, you're not even relative to him, they are always respectful to you, and they are sort of. So that's why I'm saying this is becoming a very, very prominent asset class across the globe. China is done, US is done, Israel is done, India is done, UK is done. A lot of startup economies are already in place in the world. So and Middle East, I was there, and I can see a lot of incubation centers there. I visited a couple of incubation centers there. There's seriousness there. So I think there is a huge scope, and there are chances that this asset class will become the biggest asset class in the world very soon.
Excellent. So where do you see Indian startup ecosystem in the next 5 years compared to the US and China? And do you see integration of the global startup ecosystem to create more value for startup? Dr.
I would
Apoorva?
say, yeah, I'm there. So, I will say, the Indian startup ecosystem, today we are at a lakh startup economy now, right? Whereas China is around, 10 lakh startup economy, US is around 8 lakh startup economy, and they have around 200 unicorns. India has still 40 unicorns, around 36 unicorns, and 200, 300 semi-unicorns. 36 unicorns out of a lakh, which is every 2,000, 2,300 startup, you are seeing one unicorn. It's a very, very capital efficient economy. And we also have data that's showing, around every year, the 25% growth rate in the startups. In 3 to 5 years, you will see, India will become at least a 500,000 startup economy, at least a 500,000 startup economy. And that's the time when you will have at least 200 unicorn here and around 2,000 semi-unicorn companies. It's the same rate at which we are growing now. And there are some reasons why it's happening in India, because, in India, the tier 2, tier 3 ecosystems, today we are at 50 cities in India, and we can see the startups there. Geo has taken, the bandwidth, especially to almost every small city in India. That's why the talents there, they don't need to come out to metros now anymore. They get money there, they get bandwidth there, and that's what is required for a startup. So you will see a lot of growth coming in next, 3 to 5 years. And I can see the opportunity to invest at least 3,000 semi-unicorn, at least 200 unicorns in next 3 to 5 years. That's why we just launched our Accelerator Fund also to enable that growth.
Excellent, excellent. Now, China is, of course, is in a trade war with two largest economies of the world, the US and India. So how would it result, and what can be the implication of it?
I think the startup ecosystems in China, US, and India is very well integrated. And I know that this is more at economic level, more at a country level. Whereas in India, if you see, in China, you see, I mean, we have a portfolio company where you can see after us, Axis came from China, then Google from US came, and then finally it was acquired by a large company, Geo, in India. So the integration between the ecosystems are already there. So it is, and frankly, those ecosystem is still working very, very well between them. Yes, there is a slowdown looking at the little bit tension at the border and all these things, but I think the association will continue because startups work each other based on their gap areas. They look at what are the complementary things what they get from each other. So I think the unification of the these three economies will happen at least at the startup economy very soon. Today it's a very temporary situation. I think another 3-6 month time this will go away.
This takes us to my next question. Now, Silicon Valley is the hub of the global startup ecosystem. It came to life in the 1950s. So do you see possibilities of new hubs coming around the world?
Already,
Anytime
there
soon,
are,
maybe?
yes, so Greater Bay Area is already in place, that is Shenzhen plus Hong Kong. They have more GDP than the Great Bay Area. Then you come Southeast Asia, there is a hub coming around Singapore. Then, there is a possibility in the MENA region. I've been visiting there from last 2 years, and I was sharing to Dr. Ahmed that there is a possibility there. In India, we have a Silicon Valley coming in Mumbai. We are setting up a FinTech Valley. And tier 2, tier 3 city explosion has already happened in India. We're going to have at least 100 startup cities in India. So, it's fragmented as well as, the startup big hubs are coming. I was surprised. I was invited by some minister from Thailand. They have around 1,200 startups. I was surprised to know that there are about 2 unicorns there. So a lot of countries are, putting emphasis to create startup hubs. And I think, that's the way forward in the world. That's the way how the world economy is going to grow and going to contribute to the human being.
Excellent. Dr. Apoorva, now you have seen 4 recessions, right? Including the dot-com boom in early 2000. Now today we are seeing another global recession due to the COVID-19. What's your advice for all the investors?
So I think every industry gets impacted during recession, except the idea stage and early stage investing and the startups. The more, during the recession, it's a inversely proportional relationship. You find more number of unicorns coming. The reason is that because a lot of, intelligent, I would say young people, they get pink slips and they do a startup. And we see this during this recession time, people want to do a capital efficient, business, capital light businesses, and that is the startups. And that's what, the reason why you see 9 out of 36 company unicorns in India, they born during the recession. 72 out of 469 unicorn in the world, they born during the recession. And I've seen 4 or 5, recessions in my life since 2000, and I've been, seeing this cycle coming every time. So every time this recession is on the place, I said, we're gonna do more investing because we get the right deals at the right price and we get better people to invest. So, across the globe, we always tell people that, when you are seeing a recessionary time coming, invest in a startup than any other asset class, because this is a time when you get the best talent coming out, best concepts coming out. The chances are you will touch a unicorn.
Great. Well, as the global leader of a startup ecosystem, so what investment themes would you recommend to investors for finding their next unicorn?
See, so a lot of people talk about, different, now, frankly, the people say, boss, the businesses, now consumer businesses are down. I always tell them, don't see now. You see what is going to happen after 9 months, because recession will be over after 9 months, right? At that time, even if you get a good consumer tech company, invest at the right price. Because after 9 months, the same company will be raising the Series A, right? I mean, this is a survey done in India for Indian economy. Yes, at the moment, the investments is going into healthcare, media entertainment, pharma companies, technology companies. But the fact is, you get at the right price, even the technology, consumer technology companies, even consumer internet companies. Don't leave them, because this is the right time, to identify the next unicorn in these sectors. And, these are themes which we are investing. Yes, in last 6 months, we would have invested again 30 odd startups, different sectors. But we are very, because as an investor, early stage, idea stage investors and seed stage, you have to be opportunist also. But at the same time, you'll have to be futurist. You'll have to vision. You have to see after 9 months what's going to be hot. Not just now, today, what's going to be hot. See what's going to be hot after 9 months. And that is when you make money. That's where you make multiplier. And that's where you make, because you're making the investment at the right price, at the right negotiated price. So you have to see what's going to happen. This is your current scenario. Yes, you will get plenty of companies in education and all these sectors, because people believe there is a growth in that. But the fact of the matter is that, the companies which currently not showing a growth, but the future, there's going to be, you have to look at the future.
Well, excellent. Well, this will take me to my next question, which is related to the previous question. So how can we create more number of unicorns?
So, it's a question related to economy, actually. If you really want to create number of unicorns in the world or in your economy, first of all, you need to have building blocks in place. You should have accelerators. You should have, in China, US, in India, you'll find plenty of accelerators. You'll find you need to have a proper ecosystem. Enablement is very important. If that kind of enablement is not possible, like in India, the VC ecosystem was not, matured at that point of time. So we went outside India to raise capital. So you have to integrate, the building blocks across the globe where you find the best, So for enablement of a startup, you need accelerators, you need incubators, then you also need, the angel investors, and then you also need, the venture capital companies. This ecosystem of 4 building blocks is very important in any economy. If one of the building block is weak, you can always, collaborate with other economy to get those kind of things, right? But, don't limit your startup just to that particular, till the time, your economy grows, those startup will drive. So important to collaborate in other economies also. This in some numbers, if you see every 2,000 startup, we are creating 1 unicorn and semi-unicorn. In China, you see every 6,000 startup, there is a unicorn. And so you have to generate large number of startups. Like you have to have, if you really want today, out of a lakhs, 100,000 startup, we have 36 unicorns and 300 semi-unicorns. But if you would have 10 lakh startups, 10,000, I'll say 1 million startups in India, your numbers will grow to maybe 200 unicorns or maybe, around, I will say 3,000 semi-unicorn. The more the number of startups in your organization, it's very important to educate people to do a startup. That's what I did last couple of years. I educated a lot of people to do a startup. My purpose of launching 9 unicorns is only that, to educate people across the globe, at least in 30, 40 countries, to do a startup, do a unicorn. The more the people do the startup, that is one education required. The second education is required to bring every person in your economy to invest in startups. I did around last 4 years, I would have taken at least 400, 500 master classes to educate SME owners in India to invest in startups. They were never doing it earlier, but now I can see, that something is already in place now. So that kind of education is required, and that helps, enablement for these startups to grow and become a unicorn. Because otherwise, they will not get business from these SMEs, because they don't. If you don't educate SMEs about startups, they will not understand why to give business to them. If you don't educate people to invest in startups, they will not understand why to support them. If you don't educate people to do as startups, you won't find enough number of startups to create a unicorn. That is something very important too. These two factors very important, which I'm doing last 4 or 5 years continuously in India, and probably in other parts of the world will happen soon.
That's excellent. Excellent. Dr. Apoorva, I think maybe because last session we have surpassed our session schedule due to a lot of guest questions. So I think maybe if you would allow me to move on to audience questions, Q&A, would that be fine?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
So all the participants, all our guests, if you would kindly share your questions with us at the Q&A chat section, or if you wish to ask live question, you could raise your hand. And we could start now. We started receiving the questions. So we have one question from Omnia. 1% mortality rate is very low. What do you do to maintain such a low rate?
As I said, so 70% of the success of your investment depends whether you do the right selection or not. 70%. This is a research data. There are 9 incubation theory in the world. So if you read that, you will come to know everywhere that 70% is the right selection. It's important to have the right set of selection concept with diverse background. So when you are evaluating, curation of the startup is very, very important. Your 50% job is done. You are able to control half the mortality there if you have the right selection. Second, the right enablement. And this enablement happens through, network, mentorship. So for every startup, like for example, if it's a FMCG startup, most of the FMCG startups, they have a challenge of distribution. They have a challenge of distribution, offline distribution, not online. If you get them a person on board who can help them grow offline distribution, the life of the startup becomes very simple, becomes very easy. So when we form every startup, we form a mentorship board, which help them in terms of their gap areas. So every startup have a couple of gap areas. While you are investing, you should be able to spot that. In those gap areas, like for example, a technology startup, which is a B2B startup, always a challenge to get, business. So we have also a joint venture company, which is Incubate Hub, which is helping our startups to get business from the corporates. Their job is only to do that. So you need institutional support for them, not just a sporadic support. So there are companies which are into healthcare domain. They find it very difficult, to, connect to the hospital owners because they are coming with a new concept. From, reaching to the owners is very difficult. So of a platform like us, we connect them directly to the hospital owners. And if they like the idea, they start implementing those concepts. So you have to create a mentorship board who can actually help. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 6 months to find the right mentor. One of our company, Om Bhakti, we could figure out the mentor just now after investing 6 months. But now I know this mentor is going to change the life, transform the life. So very important to create an enablement around that startup. That will give mortality rate further down, right? And the fourth thing is that you have to train the startup founder to, raise multiple rounds. That is very important, and provide the enablement for that. Because we, like at Venture Catalyst, we are able to take them to China, we are able to take them to UK, we also brought them to Middle East to meet the family office. We also brought them to, US and different parts of the world, wherever the next round financiers are available. We enable, there are a lot of people who go in the delegation and we enable that. So it is very important to send these startups in the first year, within 6 months of your investments, between 6 to 18 months, you have to keep sending them to different locations so that their mind is open, they're able to address to the venture capital queries, and they're able to understand what is to be presented to the venture capitalist companies to raise the larger round. And in different stages, you have to help the company at least for 24 months because that's a value of death. So till the time, if you are able to help the company, you're able to provide them a visibility of 24-month capital, you're able to help the company, mentor the company for next 24, because that's the value of death. Once they cross the value of death, the chances are they're going to do very, very well in their business. And if you address that, you're able to brace the mortality.
Excellent. We have a question from Michael. When defining a unicorn, do you consider any revenues?
Yes. So, there are different types of company. If it's a FMCG company becoming a unicorn, you will find a good margin, you'll find good GMV. When there are companies which are consumer tech companies, they become a unicorn. The chances are not necessarily their revenues will match. They will have a huge burn also. Right. So it depends. What sector you are investing. And you have to have an open mind for that, to understand from the data, past data, what kind of trends are there in terms of their revenue versus valuation. The chances are the valuation is very high, but the revenue, is still there, is low. So you have to understand from the past data what sector offers what kind of growth, what kind of revenue growths are being offered in what sector, and accordingly help the company. If you have the same set of mindset for the same different sectors, then it will be a challenge for the startup. So it's important to think sector wise, on understand what revenue potentials and what time frame those revenues will be met. So yes, sometimes it takes time, but sometimes there are some deep tech companies, sometimes you'll find zero revenue for first 1 year. But I have seen, and I've my couple of companies, WePhrase and the deep tech companies, they're now doing very well. But I know they're early days. The investors are always having question whether they've written off or they'll become success. Or for first 1.5 year, 2 year in the deep tech, you will always have question, because it's challenge to sell, make people understand the innovation they have done. It's very, very challenging to make. But once the people understand the value of their innovation, there is no dearth of the revenue. It's like it grows, hockey stick growth. And you have to help them during that time.
Dr. Apoorva, related to this question, I want to add 2 more questions. Now, when you are analyzing these startups, do you depend on who did the studies for them? For example, like the valuation analysis and so on. Does it matter if a reputable company did it for them or they did the financial studies themselves? This is part 1 of the question. The second part, if a company did their valuation with one of the big 5 companies, such as KPMG, for example, and they got the pre-money valuation was very high. I've seen some companies do suffer when meeting some clients or some potential investors, saying that you haven't started, you're still at the stage idea. Maybe you have set up the company, but you haven't started. So why is the company overvalued, and they start losing these investors who could be a potential investor?
It's important to understand that this is a stage in the idea and seed stage. You don't need a report from anybody. You have to interact with the founders, and you have to see how much money they need for 18 months. And you have to make your own assessment on that. And then, because sometimes they're also not clear how much money they need for the next 18 months and how much is right to dilute them, because taking too much equity also is not right sometimes. Otherwise, the next round don't come. There's nothing left for the next round investors, right? So important to have that discussion and be flexible there in the seed and early stage. When it comes to the series B, C, D stage, that's where these the reports from KPMG and EY matters, because there's a time you have a data of revenue, margins, GMV, even losses, everything is in place, right? And that's the time some kind of projections based on data is required. But at the same time, please understand, you also have to understand how much, you're putting money in the founder. You're putting money, your own money is going on the founders. If you don't get the confidence after talking to the founders, these projections are no value, right? You should get the confidence after talking to the founders that this guy is there till the end of this company. This guy is he is a passionate individual. He is going to create. For them, decacorn, unicorn doesn't matter. For them, it is their life. That is something which they want to create one of the biggest company in this industry. Even if they become the biggest in that space, they would like to, do continuous, those things. So, you will have to make an assessment of the founder, very important. But yes, these reports matters when you have larger tickets coming, $100 million, $300 million, or $1 billion investments. And that's the time to understand basically what are the gaps and what are the things, how the things to be handled. Matters at that time.
Okay, excellent. We have a question from Abhay. Since COVID has affected traditional or retail business really badly, most businesses are going digital. Do you think it would be a better idea to invest in tech companies?
Yes. So, today is right now a very good chance because a lot of companies, technology companies, are enabling the retail companies transactions. And I know in India, very, very large retail companies, they have reached out to us to look at the companies who can provide the technology for the enablement. And I know recent success story, the Instacart in US, which is the Apoorva Mehta, has become a $1 billion guy just because, he's, enabling the inventories of a lot of retail stores and, making it up and like. So he's figured out the way. He could figure out it out, but, people started using it now because that was a pandemic situation. But remember this, important to understand, investing in disruptive technology is always good because but you find very few disruptive, innovative technology companies in the world. You have to make an understanding, also understand those innovative technologies should also make a commercial sense. There are some fantastic innovative technology companies, but they do not have a commercial matter around. It's important to understand what you are promoting and what you're going to get out of this investment. So important to support them. Right now, good time to invest in technology and AI technology big companies. Definitely at the right price also you will get it.
Excellent. We have a question from Insia. What activities should an incubator conduct to increase startup success?
I think the integration with the venture capital companies, with the angel networks, with the and space should be almost for free. In India, all our incubators, the space is free. We don't charge them. We charge them only the electricity cost. Because we believe, if we are investing in these startups, we get a multiplier anyway. So, the space is just one thing. A lot of incubators, they started with a traditional model of space charging. So their focus should be on the value add. Focus should be, to create an ecosystem around to help these startups in a big manner.
We have a question from Sri Ram. First question, what is more important for a startup to succeed, the idea or the execution? The second part of the question, is it good to have a startup trying to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a large pond?
So first question is simple because, the best of the idea in the world, they are in the research laboratory. If they're not executed properly, so they don't become a unicorn. Even an average idea, if it's executed properly, it becomes a unicorn. So many times this happens, So the execution is more important than any other thing. So that's where that's why important to assess the execution capability of the founder, right? But at the same time, there are enough number of excellent ideas in the world. You have to figure out the right, and you also have to look at the open mind. Don't just follow any precedents or basis ideas. Don't just see US it becoming successful in US or China, it will become successful in your country also. You have to see what will become successful in your country. That is important to understand, right? Very important to understand that part. So it is important to understand, what will work, in your economy, what will work. There are a lot of things which may work in your economy, may not work in the US or China or maybe in India. Right? So it is important to understand the execution matters. There are, if you are a small economy, lesser number of the people are there, create a global idea, create global product, because without a size, you cannot become a unicorn, right? It is important to have a right market size, important to, go global. Startup is just it's around, I'll say 9 million people in Israel, but look at the startups, unicorns they have created in their country, because they create global startups, right? So important to, understand the strength of your economy, strength of your market, and then accordingly develop the products for the company.
Is it a good idea to have scalability from the beginning to expand to other regions and other countries?
So you should have clarity that, startup means scalability. The idea should be super scalable. Yes, for the first 6 months, you can experiment in the local market, experiment in the, and create a strong product offering or the value proposition for the customers. Once that product market fit is achieved, there is no, you just have to raise capital and scale, just have to raise capital and scale. Achieve the product market fit. Until you achieve the product market fit stage, you don't have to scale.
So how long you think before moving on to a different region? How can we tell that we have a solid base, now we can start moving, we have learned from
Dr. Ahmed, Mr. Ahmed, I've seen companies even taking 5 years to achieve the product market fit stage, and then they have grown suddenly market stage. Once they crack the code, important to crack the code of product market fit. The customer should be able to pay for what you're getting, what you're developing. Customer should understand the value of it. Then the virality. You see this TikTok, it's an old concept. It's not a new concept, right? Then suddenly it become a viral in India, and you saw so many around, I will say, so many users. This is an old idea, but virality comes when you see the product market, and sometimes the market also, you're doing the same concept in this market, but it's not getting success. But you see the same market in the other market, it becomes suddenly very successful. And I have experimented this with some of my technology companies. When we were doing the same thing, in India and we phrase, suddenly we send them to Canada, we send them to Hong Kong, they become successful. So people to understand, people should guide them on that aspects. That's why you need mentors.
Okay, excellent. Dr. Isam from Saudi, to start a business, what should be priority? Founders, domain expertise, or consumer demand?
First of all, you have to find an idea which is disruptive or innovative. Either of these two things. Either it should disrupt the way the existing businesses are done, or it should bring some innovative ideas to bring capital efficiency or the operational efficiency for the business, right? If you're able to figure out that, because end of the day, that matters, right? Then you have to see whether you are the best co-founding team to do that. If you're not, then find out the right people to get associated with you. And then you reach out to the investors for the money. And then once the investors say yes, that means there is a validation of what you're thinking. And then achieve the product market fit stage and go for a scalability for the larger investors. That's the steps involved.
Excellent. We have a question from Amjad. Are there any tools to analyze various sectors and markets?
There are many
what
tools.
Tools do you use to analyze various sectors?
See, there are tools. There are some automated tools also to analyze the startups. But there are, it is important because these are mostly new concepts, right? You cannot make the assessment based on the traditional data, right? because most of the time these startups come with a very, very new concept, which is you do not find the data to analyze it. You can do you can have a tool only based on the past traditional data, right? Historical data, but there is no historical data available to analyze those things. So it is important to do the analysis based. You should have subscription of the best database of the world. You should have subscription of CB Insight, PitchBook. A lot of them are there, in the world. But keep reading. It is important for the founder of an investment company or the incubator to be in touch with the best of the trends, and you should have the capability of analyzing, because this is your 70% of your business. If you do not do the right selection, sometimes you find some good concept and you are not able to analyze and you don't invest in them. That's called negative list of investments. A lot of investors, large investors, they have negative list of their investors. And many of them in India, they have OYO in that actually negative list. So see, if you are not able to analyze at that time, startup investing is a very quick decision-making business, right? If you don't invest, if you're not able to in 10 minutes, not able to make an analysis of, so you have to be very, very well informed. You should keep reading what's happening around the world, what are the best of the use cases across the globe. You have to be in touch, and your analyst team should be extremely good.
Dr. Apoorva, I've run into some investors with some unique projects that are innovative and disruptive. These are traditional. Now I'm talking about traditional investors. And they have the concern of, what if another big fish, big company from the big known international in the US or Asia or India comes and replicates your idea. Now they don't think about capital gain. They don't think about like Amazon buying Soog or Uber buying Kareem. No, they're thinking, what if they come and compete? You wouldn't have any chance. How would you answer them?
So I want to tell you one example. I'll give you some examples of that. That will help you understand. Like this Beardo founders, which is my latest success story. They had the nascent capability of multiplying revenue by online marketing. Very simple capability. And that's the reason why they got, this whole thing happened in their life. But it is very difficult to replicate that. Even after acquisition, it is very difficult. They are the one, it is their capability of the founders. It is very important for the founders of the company to develop some nascent capabilities which are non-replicable. It is the capability of the founders which matters, right, for the startup. Rest of the things can be replicated, but there are some skills which a founder of a company, will have, which nobody else can replicate, right? Rest all the things, business model can be copycatted. Even the idea can be, same copycat idea possible. More money can be put into the similar idea. But, if you have a capability of growing your business every month, double the business, if you have the capability of identifying the right people, you will always be in the competing position. You will always be in the leadership position. And that's what you see in these unicorn founders. And this is one of the capability which nobody else has. These unicorn founders are the one who actually create the unicorn. It is not their idea which became a unicorn. It is their capability which makes them big. So don't need to fear. Just develop yourself. Just develop yourself, your capabilities.
Excellent.
Money will follow you.
Excellent. Excellent. We have a question from Mr. Khalid. Talk more about your latest fund. Is Venture Catalyst and 9 Unicorn latest fund same?
No, so we have two companies, 9 Unicorn and Venture Catalyst. Venture Catalyst is more, incubator company, which is enabling the investment in startups through our angel network, right? And this angel network is around 5,000 investors now across the globe. In 50 cities in India, you have investors from there, and the 5-6 other countries. This platform of Venture Catalyst incubation company has the capability of investing in 4 or 5 startups every month. In next 3 to 5 years, this capability will touch to around 15 investment a month, right? And I'm talking about $500,000 to $2 million every startup in the idea and seed stage. So this is our current capability of venture capitalists. That's why we are ranked world number 7 now. In this company, venture capitalist is world ranked by Crunchbase. So Crunchbase ranking 2020 January, we were declared world number 7. And this company is backed by a couple of billionaires, around 4 billionaires from India, who have shareholding in this company. And this company is continuously creating, semi-unicorn and, category leaders in India. And we have 100 plus portfolio companies. But, we realized that maybe we become a 10,000 investors network. And our investment capability maybe we need 10 startups. How do we get good startups to invest? And that's when we thought of launching 9 unicorns, because it is important to develop startups. The mandate of venture capitalists is to educate a lot of people to invest in startups, in the curated startups, very important. And incubate them, those startups, develop them, make it them big. Mandate of 9 unicorn is to educate people to do unicorn in the idea stage, create lots of idea stage companies. Now, in next 10 years time, we will be educating around 5 lakh people to, I'll say 500,000 to 2 million people to do a startup. And we will invest maybe out of that 2,000, 3,000 companies.
Is that
so
per year? Per year?
Sorry?
Is that per year? Is that number per year, per annum, or?
I'm talking about in 10 years time, 5 to 10 years time, because, even if you see the accelerators, best accelerator in the world, which is like Y Combinator, they have invested in the last 12 years, only 2,200 companies. They have created 20 unicorns. So from 9 unicorn, the idea is next 10 years time, we create at least 9 to 20 unicorns. And, in the idea stage, we give them a visibility of 24-month capital. We give them visibility of the business support, which they are going to get from us, and the gap-based mentorship by excellent mentors. We have a lot of semi-unicorn founders and CXOs and business angels who are going to help these companies to go to the next level. And the next round can come from them. So this is a SEBI registered fund. SEBI is a regulatory body in India. So this 9 unicorn is a fund format. It's a venture capital fund of $45 million, very small fund, but to start with. But in the future, you will find a next fund maybe $300 million and another fund maybe $500 million fund is soon likely to come. So, this is a starting of, I will say the idea stage transformation in India. And that's why you see a lot of people from across the globe are investing, because they see this as an opportunity to access the idea stage investing in India.
Okay. So did you say that you're investing in these startups starting from 500,000? Is that what I heard from you?
$150,000. So 9 unicorn will invest $150,000 to $250,000 in every idea stage company. Take maybe 5-6% equity only. But the idea was to, right now, at the idea stage, when you invest small amount in these startup, which is what they're looking at for next 3 to 6 month time, my next money is ready from the venture capitalist. $500,000 to $2 million. But at that time, it is important to give them a gap-based mentorship. It is important to give them support to open up their mind, connect them to the best VCs in the world, connect them to the best mentors in the world, so that the business model gets stronger, their product market fit is in place, and there is risk is further reduced. Mortality is going down by right mentorship. And when you see the visibility of 24-month capital with us, there is a chance that another next unicorn is going to come. I am seeing an opportunity in next 3 to 5 years in India. There will be at least 200 unicorn to invest. There will be at least 5,000 semi-unicorn companies to invest. And out of that, even if I get maybe 5 or 10% market share, my fund is going to be rocks talking into this. And it will create deep impact.
So, Dr. Apoorva, when you invest 100,000 or 150 for 5%, now you support them for what? For a period of what? Before going to another round,
yeah, so 6 months. 6 months.
6 months.
So so this stage it is only 6 months, because within 3 to 6 months the next money is ready, and the role of venture capitalists come, and the chances are time. If you look into my investment council, today, the best of the people of the world, they are part. Some people from US, China, US, a lot of people are part of that investment council. The chances are, even in that stage, you'll find the chances of the next round.
And usually, like if you went in and invested.
Sorry.
I think you're disconnecting a little bit the sound.
Yeah.
My question: if you've invested as a seed for 100,000 for 5%, now when you go after 6 months for Series A, for example, usually how would the percentage increase, or depending on the amount invested?
So in the idea stage, it is an investment of $150,000 to even $250,000, and you lose less than 9% equity.
Okay.
Anywhere between 5 to 9% equity. You should not lose more than that, right? And sometimes it is convertible note also, because you do not know if sometimes the company's valuation is difficult to predict. But in the next stage, which is seed stage, when you're checking $500,000 to $2 million check, you should not lose more than 15-20% stake of your company. And in the Series A, similarly, not lose more than 15-20% stake of your company, because you have to raise at least 7 or 8 rounds to become $1 billion company. Right? Otherwise, in the end, for $1 billion, $10 billion company, founder will have only 10% share in his hand. So their interest goes down. That's why it is important to control the dilution from day one.
Okay.
And leave something for the next round investors.
Yeah, because this is very important questions. A lot of investors, sometimes they try to take an advantage, and they say, okay, I'm going to take the biggest share for the least amount. And then, sometimes, especially if they didn't go through an incubator or something, I'm talking like they're trying to seed on their own, raise some seed amount. And some of them, they give up a big percentage, and then they end up with the minimum that they can't even go and raise, a number of series.
Yeah, so important to be cautious. Yes. Because cutting the next round is more important than your own investments. Otherwise, your exits will not come.
Absolutely. We have a question also from: how do you evaluate ID stage startups? Is the analysis same for fully functioning startups?
At the idea stage, it is the capability of the founder on 2 parameters. Because in idea stage, everything is all hypothesis-based analysis, right? Like, for example, when PSafe, which is one of our investment company, came to us, which is now, around, I will say, $40 million company. When they came to us, they came to me with a bottle, right? That this is a toilet seat sanitizer. It sanitizes the toilet seats. So, and one of the comparison in Indian market was Harpic, which was around, I will say the $100 million or maybe $150 million revenue company. They said, the potential of this product is this, and I am the founder, of this company. My capabilities are this. My connects are this. Only this much conversation, right? But I could like the way they had, packaged the product was very, it looked like they had done a branding properly. I could also sense, I tested the product with a couple of friends of mine, and they said, yeah, it's effective. The product was effective. Third, the founders were having the greater capability, excellent network, and also they were probably one of the best people to crack it. So we invested at that time. We invested around $500,000 at that, idea stage at, around $2 million investment valuation. So, and now the company is a category leader in India, is women hygiene products. So, you have to make an assessment of the people and what they're saying. You have to believe on them, what they're saying, and then make an assessment of the market size at that time. And I could see that market size, it's at least this much market size is definitely there. So I could make it sensible. So you'll have to do that assessment.
Well, Dr. Apoorva, you make it sound very simple, and I think you're going to get many people excited to start their own startups.
Thank you.
Okay, I have here a question from Mr. Abdullah. How to calculate valuation for pre-revenue startups, and what equity you should give for pre-seed, seed, and Series A?
So I think I've answered this question before, right? But still, if you want
Yes.
me to repeat that. So
how to calculate the valuation for the pre-revenue startup. Maybe, I mean,
So,
we've answered the partial of it.
yeah, so the valuation of the startup is something which is, you have to make an assessment how much, at the idea stage, how much money they need for next 9 months or a year at the idea stage. And the seed stage, you have to see how much money they need for another 18 months time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that calculation should be done properly, because in different markets, the requirements are different. US, the requirement is different. India, the requirement is different. In the UAE, the requirement will be different. And in Singapore, the requirement will be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make a right assessment of how much money they need for another 9 months for idea stage, for seed stage, another 18 months. In the series A, assessment of another 24-month capital, right? So that is one thing. Secondly, because you also have to understand from seed idea stage to seed, it takes around 6 months time to raise capital. Sometimes it is 1 year. So you have to prepare yourself for that, right? That is number one. And you have to keep some margin. Sometimes it can accelerate to maybe 1 year in place of 9 months, right? And then you'll have to see how much equity is to be diluted. In the seed stage, idea stage, not more than 8 or 7, 5, 6, 7% equity you should take. In the seed stage, you should take not more than 15, 20% stake. In the series A, again, 15, 25% stake. From fund to fund, the investment thesis vary. Some funds have the thesis they want to take at least 20% stake in every start, because they make the calculation of their returns accordingly. They have a thesis that I'll be investing in 100 startups. Some funds have a thesis that they will be investing in 30 startups. Accordingly, they have calculated the returns, right? But I believe that people have to be flexible, because the things changes. In the startup world, things changes. Hypothesis also keeps changing fast. Otherwise, the competitors takes away the market share.
Excellent. Now, Dr. Apoorva, when investors invest in startups, some traditional minds still think of, I'm putting this much, what are my returns within a year? We still have that mindset, that like the real estate mindset, especially here in our region. Do you I mean, what would you say to these investors? Should they look at the capital gain, or should they look at it from that point of view? What are the profits next year and the following, or the next 3 years or 5 years? What is more important?
See, the nature of the asset class, every investor should do some intelligence analysis, I will say analysis of the asset class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do the investment hypothesis accordingly. This asset class offers you 250x. No other asset class offers you that much. Consistent basis, they keep, can offer 5x, 10x, 20x returns on at least 30-40% of your portfolio. The chances are that if you're doing it very well. So this asset class gives you a return which no other asset class offers. So it is important to understand this is not a one-year investment business. You have to have a long-term view and the vision, at least 3 to 7 years investment plan in this asset class. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand what's happening in this asset class and why the intelligent investors in this asset class, they plan 3 to 7 years in this business. Sometimes they do direct investments, and then they have to wait because exits start happening normally after 2 and 2.5 years, and the next round investors come, right?
Yeah.
Or there is a buyout or M&A, because in 3 years you know what's happening with your start, and you also have to be ready mentally that it's a high risk, high return business. There are cases where even 80% mortalities are there in some of the funds, right? So you have to understand, you have to believe in the capability of the investment managers, and you also have to be consultative. At the same time, you also have to help these startups, because enablement is very important in the startup business and startup investments. When you are entering into this asset class, this is not like real estate. Even real estate or stock market, they get impacted with the market situation, economic conditions, right? So likewise, but this is an investment into any other business, right? But the predictability depends upon how much enablement we are providing to them, how much network support we are providing to them. So when you are investing in this asset class, come with different mindset. Don't come with a similar mindset where you are stock market or mutual fund or the real estate mindset. This is a different asset class altogether.
Dr. Apoorva, now it's 5:18 and we still have some questions coming. So I don't know what is your time like. Is it okay to still answer some questions or?
I think Rajesh, what do you suggest? I'm okay. Maybe a few more minutes.
We should take 1 or 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. Okay, so we have a question also from Mr. Ali Musa. How can we maintain connection with Mr. Apoorva, and what is the minimum investment he accept in his fund today, I think?
And Dr. Ahmed is the right person who is helping us connecting with the people.
Mm-hmm.
He has all the details about how much we are evaluating, how much people are investing in our fund. This fund is subscription is closing fast. On 18th of July, probably we'll be announcing our first close. So, the minimum tickets and every details is available with Dr. Ahmed there. I'll request Dr. Ahmed to please share with all the investors who are interested to invest in this fund. We'll be happy to discuss more in details on that.
Okay, excellent. We have a combining question from Ghulam Hedi and Prakash. Dr. Apoorva mentioned they evaluate 10,000 startups. What sector do you see more potential? More unicorns will come in tech or non-technology space?
I have shown a split of that in the first slide itself. This is a cycle that keeps changing. When you are a new economy, startup economy, there are mostly technology startups. And you'll find every startup is a technology startup. When you become a slightly more matured economy, you will find startups in every sector, right?
Yeah.
You'll find startups in supply chain. You'll find startups in agri-tech, right? Even agri startups. So you also have to see the potential of your economy, what it offers to you. There are, like, for example, in India, a lot of agriculture startups are coming now. Because India is a land of agriculture, a lot of agriculture startups coming now. And I can see supply chain logistics, there are plenty of them. And there are potential unicorns are there. And there are already a couple of delivery and, Swiggy, all of them are already in place, unicorn companies in India. So, over time, when it comes to selecting the sector, first of all, we'll have to see what is that available right now in your economy. But if you're open to invest in the global startups, you'll find, currently, you'll find very good education startup. You'll find very good FMCG startup in India. Time to time, it keeps changing. There are a lot of deep tech companies which are coming, and doing very, very well. So right now, you will find a lot of technology companies because a lot of technology enablement is required at different levels, right? So yes, right now you can invest in technology companies. You can invest in some of the, so over time, like I showed you the chart, over time it keeps changing. Every quarter or 6 months, this cycle keeps changing. The sector priority keeps changing. There was a time when everybody was investing in fintech. There was a time when everybody was only in deep tech. There was a time when everybody is investing only in the FMCG companies. That keeps changing. And economy to economy keeps changing. Currently in India, deep tech is definitely hot, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Well, Dr. Apoorva, thank you very much for taking our questions. If you would allow me, let's ask Mandar Joshi to join for a closing statement.
Thank you, Hamid. Thank you, Dr. Apoorva. It's always a privilege to watch you, to listen to you. I've been following you. I would say you are my guru, my personal guru in the startup ecosystem and my own investments. Can I ask you to give maybe one last tip, one last advice, only one, to the investors, typically in the Middle East region? Because Hamid talked about the mindset that they had, you know, last couple of decades? Any specific tip or any specific advice for the Middle East investors?
I would say I think in the Middle East, I've been visiting last two and a half years. You know, I can see a great potential. You know, especially in the some of the technology companies which I interacted with them. You know, but there is a lot of logistics and supply chain possibilities. Even some fintech possibilities are huge, which you will have to enable as an incubator, as an accelerator there. We'll be happy to look at some good startups from there, from this 9 unicorn also. As I promised Dr. Ahmed that at least 15, 20 good startup we'll definitely invest. And media and entertainment also possibilities there. So, you know, the current analysis, of course, I'll have to do deep dive further with the help of you guys, you know, what could be the right sector there. I was still to interact with more number of startups there. But, you know, with prima facie, when I interacted a couple of times in the last, you know, 2-3 years, you know, I could figure out these are the companies, these are the sectors which definitely can attract some good startups, and, you know, we can definitely invest in them. And my advice to you guys,
Thank you so much,
Frank, my advice to you will be that, create some good startup hub there, and together we can invest in good startups. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Over to you, Hamid.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Ching session. I hope that our guests have enjoyed it and have benefited from it as much as we did. Due to the time constraint, you know, we will have to end. We have surpassed our time again, but yet with knowledge and with exciting discussions like this, time do fly. We look forward to more interactive, exciting topics and webinars. And thank you for everyone that have made time on a Saturday to come and join us and try to benefit from this, as this is for the good of everyone, especially during this pandemic. We are trying our best to come out of it stronger. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we wish you a happy and nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.